You survived the most famous serial killer since Jack the Ripper. The 5-year anniversary is coming up. I think a lot of people would really like to hear from you after all this time. I want to know what it's like to be in the presence of that kind of evil.
I think it's kind of interesting that we all have the same favorite kill, because it's definitely not supposed to be the one that you walk away going like that.
They're upping their creativity. Like, it's not just we're slicing people down the middle now. There is that.
Really gnarly, fucked up things are happening, and yet you have like a whole crowded theater full of people just laughing, and it's just like, I'm fucked up, but they're fucked up too. This is great.
He's scaring me too.
Hey, Santa's handing out presents!
I was pretty sure that a kid was gonna die. I didn't think we were gonna see it.
Good evening, campers, dreamers, and babysitters. And yes, we are here with two lovely gentlemen talking Terrifier 3 full spoiler breakdown, whatever you want to call this. We are just going to talk all the spoilers, all the bloody bits and carnage that ensued in this film. And I will send it off introducing, of course, the gentleman in the center of us here, the great Cody Leach. How you doing, man?
I'm doing great, man. I'm doing great. I had a fun time last night seeing this at a packed theater, and I just got done recording my spoiler review, so I got Terrifier 3 on the brain.
Hell yeah, hell yeah. And Evan, sir, you just walked out of not one, but 2 screenings today. You saw this at what, noon? And then went back at 6? So you've seen this twice in less than a 24-hour period.
Less than 12 hours. Yeah.
Jesus.
No, it was one of those things where like I had planned on making a brief video on it after the first showing, but I had a group of people who wanted to go see it in the evening, so I was like, I guess I'm just gonna go see it twice. But I didn't wind up doing that video, so kind of destroyed it. But I'm glad that I did that, because as I was telling you guys before we started here, I feel like I was in a bad mood the first time that negatively affected certain things about how I felt about it. And then the second time around, it was a much different experience. So I'm glad that I saw it 2 times back to back, which was interesting. And it was cool to kind of get to pick up on things like where the first time around I may have been a little hazy on something. I got to immediately go back in and clarify whatever it was I was confused about. So that was fun.
Nice,
Awesome.
nice. Hell yeah. And so I guess to start things off here, I just wanted to kind of dive into one of the big pieces, a huge experience. Cody, you went to the world premiere. We were talking a little bit before this, but I just want to ask, how was that experience, man? Like, that's got to be once in a lifetime, like, awesomeness.
It's wild, man. I was at the premiere for Terrifier 2 as well, and it wasn't the world premiere in 2022, but it was still one of the first screenings of it, and that's the best way to watch these movies. I mean, with the cast and the crew at that festival at midnight, filled to the brim with a bunch of people that are just chomping at the bit for more Art the Clown carnage. Because the first film, I'm going to rewatch it tonight, actually, before I do my ranking, but I've always been kind of mixed on it. So I wasn't somebody that walked into the second one like super excited. I was like, okay, we'll see what this is. And then I just loved it. Loved the experience. The little interaction I had with the cast and crew was great. And then you fast forward to a couple of weeks ago, and I worked the red carpet, so I got to meet a couple of them and interview them and kind of prime myself for the experience, and then weaseled my way into the big theater, which was Theater 5, that they were actually going to be in attendance with. It was, like I said, filled from floor to ceiling with Terrifier fans. And I mean, it was just rowdy. It was wild. A movie that you almost feel like certain sequences like that we'll get into where really gnarly fucked up things are happening, and yet you have like a whole crowded theater full of people just laughing, and it's just like, I'm fucked up, but they're fucked up too. This is great. It was killer.
100%, man. Like, that's
Sincerity in your psychopathy.
Yeah.
that was like one of the biggest things of last night with a full theater was just like how everybody was giggling at the parts that you're supposed to. Because obviously, I'm going to say this up front, and we'll talk about it more later. I think this is the funniest of the three. Like, dude, like absolutely leaning into the comedy a little bit more with Art, and I love that. But like, I think like overall, this was just like, it's a prime crowd pleasing movie. Like, as strange as that is to say for how fucked up it is, this is a crowd pleaser through and through. Like, this is for horror fans and Terrifier fans. So like, that's amazing that you got to go to the world premiere and experience that. I think I'm making it a mission now, because we've covered Fantastic Fests now 2 years in a row virtually. I've yet to go in person, but like, I think when Terrifier 4 comes out, if, I'll cross my fingers, they decide to go back to Fantastic Fest, I think I'll make my first, like, driving down to Austin, getting the Airbnb, doing the whole thing, and just trying to be there for that, because like,
absolutely,
God, that's got to be an experience. But Evan, you being kind of the I would say for a while there, you were probably the bigger Terrifier fan than us, because we had a similar experience to Cody. It was actually Cody and Chris Stuckman's review that convinced Luke and I to go see it, because when we first started our channel, we were like, it's, you know, we didn't like Terrifier all that much. We reviewed the first one, it was mid. We were just like, this movie's not really for us, there's nothing really going on. And then saw your guys' reviews. They were really positive. We were kind of surprised by that. And then we were like, you know what? It's playing an hour away from us. Let's go fucking see the movie. It'll be content for the channel nonetheless. We're just getting started. Walked out blown the fuck away. Absolutely was just like, wow, that's amazing. I'm completely a changed man. But Evan, you've loved these movies since Terrifier 1.
No.
I thought you said that you were a big fan of it when we first started.
No, I had seen them back then, and I remember being a fan of Art the Clown as a character, but in terms of the actual movies themselves, I wasn't a fan. Like, I remember seeing All Hallows Eve back around the time that it came out, and I was like, wow, that's a really creepy villain, and that was kind of the extent of it. And then when the first Terrifier came out, I was like, wow, he's still creepy, and that's even better this time around. That's gnarly, but like, I wasn't a fan of the movies. Even now, like, the first Terrifier for me has certainly improved with the context of where things have gone, and with some more information about you know, things like that weird lady in the basement who seems like this completely random addition in the first movie, but then you realize that it's like, oh, it's actually the mother of Emily Crane, who is the little girl who went missing in the carnival. In the second one, you're like, all right, so there's some connective tissue there that helps make it feel a little more fleshed out. But no, I was never really a big fan of the first Terrifier. I was very similar, where it was I walked into the second one not really expecting much, and then I was just completely blown away with it. And since then, I have certainly become a you know, Terrifier fan. I've got the glasses here. I realized I didn't put these on for the actual recording. I had them when I was saying hi, but I feel wrong to not have them on while we're actually going.
Well, hey, you can keep those on in private all you want, buddy. I love it. But all right, why don't we dive into this flick a little bit? I gotta say, I think, like, with this being the funniest, with this being probably, I dare I say this doesn't have the most extreme kill, but like, they are up there. Like, Luke kind of put it best in our review, where he says it feels like they're chasing the bedroom scene a little bit here, but they're also, like, with that, they're upping their creativity. Like, it's not just we're slicing people down the middle. Now there is that, but we're like really getting creative with like rats and liquid nitrogen and all kinds of wild shit. I gotta ask, starting with you, Cody, do you have a favorite kill out of this one? Is there one that just, whether it was in pure enjoyment or just pure shock?
So yeah, it was actually, I'm glad I got a chance to see it a second time last night, because the first time I was experiencing the movie, like, you're just taking it all in, and there's a lot to take in. And so, of course, the bathroom scene is like the shower scene is the one that they want to be the big premiere one. But when I saw it the second time, the kill, it's in like the first 15 minutes, where the worker like wakes up Art, and then he does like the little skull split, and then just whoosh, just like unwraps it like a present. That was my favorite, because it's quick, it's gnarly, like it's wince-worthy, but it's not to the degree of something where it's like, I shouldn't be watching this. And the practical effect when it came down and you saw the skull inside was just like, dude, that was a real skull. Fuck you. That's not an effect. I'm sorry. Somebody died. You guys took the head. You bought it from somebody, and you just did that.
They were too good at making skulls in this movie. There's a couple times where that happens.
Yes. So that was my favorite.
when they ripped off Chris Jericho's jaw too on the big screen, I was like, that looks intense. Because I feel like I had a similar experience to you there, Cody, where it's like I saw this on my TV in my actual bedroom because my son is 2, and my wife was like, "No, you're not watching this on the TV in the living room while we're awake." Of course, like a good parent. And it was just like I'm taking everything in, so I was just sitting there like, oh, nothing really blew me away as far as kills. Like there's the rat one was probably the biggest one. Yes, the shower scene was the one that everybody hyped up and was like, that's going to be crazy, and it is. But I gotta agree with you. That scene, even in my room, that was the one that was audible. Like to me, I actually like gasped a little bit, and it wasn't even just that. It was the fact that Victoria was just, I guess, for YouTube, pleasuring herself with the shard of glass.
She was having
quite
time.
an experience, right? Like just all that at once is just a lot. But I agree with you. That kill was fucking intense. Evan, you got a favorite?
I think it's kind of interesting that we all have the same favorite kill because it's definitely not supposed to be the one that you walk away going like that's the kill of the movie, but no, I mean I fully agree. And at first I was like, are we just doing another scalping? But I knew surely that wasn't going to be what was going to happen because this is Damien Leone and he'll be damned if he's going to put a repeat kill, especially in the first 15 minutes of the movie. That's not going to happen. So I was like, where are they going with this? And it was a sort of similar feeling to like Gerald's game where something started and I was like, I don't know where this is going in terms of what direction we're cutting right now and what the result of it is going to be. But it's such a good thing where, you're seeing him go from the front to the back of the head. And then it's just such a quick motion of that pull down and the effect of it was so good. I mean, the practical effects in this movie were such a huge step up.
Oh yeah.
Like the ones in the second movie were like amazing and very impressive, especially considering the budget they were working with. But like, you can really tell that this was like a dedicated makeup effects team, and they had a lot more money to work with, because it looks wild. I will give an honorable mention though to Sienna's aunt at the end. Of the movie. That's the other one where it's like, those are the two that have really stuck in my head. Like the shower scene is the scene in the movie where like the theater is like, oh my god, and it's fun and it's good, but oddly enough, it wasn't as memorable to me as either of those were.
Yeah, I had a really funny experience last night in watching the public screening. So the guy that was sitting next to me got up to go piss right before the shower scene started.
Yeah.
And so like I saw him leave and I was like, oh no, fuck, like do I warn him? Like, oh shit. And then he goes, I'm like, hopefully he pisses quick. So he went and he did that. And then like literally he missed basically all the carnage involved with Mia, but as soon as it went to go like between the cheeks, I saw him come back, and like I could see in his face like the what the fuck, holy shit, what's happening, as well as the disappointment of like, what did I just miss? It was just kind of funny to see my peripherals, all that kind of go down.
There were 3 people who got up for me right as Art is pissing in the urinal. These 3 girls got up. By the way, there were like parents bringing their like 12-year-old kids to the show.
Oh,
that was
God.
wild.
I didn't have any of that.
Yeah, I was like, I don't think they should be here right now. But anyway, 3 of them got up, like as Art is in the urinal, and then they came back while he's making the blood angel. So it was like, oh, you guys have absolutely no idea what you just missed.
Hey, it'll be something for when you pick it up on Blu-ray or watch it streaming. They'll be like, I don't remember this, but yeah, that was probably my wife's favorite scene. Now she's not a big Terrifier fan. She saw the first one ages ago with me, and she thought it was just goofy. And then I had her watch 2 right before we went and saw 3. So like last Sunday, she watched it, and she liked it a little bit more. But she's just not big into like gore films. But she's like so excited to experience all this. Like obviously, it's like the big thing around our households right now between me and Luke. Like we're constantly talking about Terrifier. So for her going into this ended up being her favorite thus far, and I told her I think it's because you saw it in a theater. Like I think that's a big thing for this.
It helps,
but she was just like on board with you too, Evan, where she said like I just felt like the gore was just so much more like realistic and gross. She commented about the skull like you did, Cody, and then she actually said her favorite kill out of everything. I thought it was going to be the rats because she just would have been like, that's twisted and everything. But it was the slicing up the butt, just because she's like, that is just fucking insane. She's like, I watched somebody get a chainsaw shoved up their ass, and she's like, I get to say that now. And I'm just like, yeah, that's what you get with Terrifier.
Do you feel like that was Damien's like middle finger to all like the misogyny comments he's gotten over the last two films?
I definitely think so. Evan, you mentioned
you want to kill a guy? Fine.
You mentioned you were listening to interviews. I listened to one too where he was talking about how that really got to him, because he's like, I don't think I'm a misogynist. He's like,
Sam Roberts? No.
Maybe. I don't remember what show. I'll have to send it.
That sounds very familiar. He was talking about how like his favorite people are his mom and his sister.
Mom and his sister. That was probably what it was then. Yeah, but he was talking all about that, and just how like it was important to him to basically like go through and actually make something really like a statement of just saying, yeah, no, it's not. Everybody's fair game here.
It's probably
they certainly are
so much like the drawing of young Sienna being like, you were gonna draw a girl. Like he's trying to say like, yeah, Sienna is this like powerful badass. Don't forget that. Like,
yeah. That's the thing with that is like, if you want to take that stance, I guess there's some reason to maybe head in a direction there thought wise, but there's just as many to refute that. You know what I mean? Like, you can't have a movie with Sienna being this amazingly powerful character twice in a row and have that be a valid argument. So,
and like, that's, you guys are giving me 2 points here to jump off on, but I think I'll take it for this one first, just to talk about Sienna's character. I said in my review, just because I didn't want to give away too much, obviously, like, especially with this, but like I said, that this feels like the Empire Strikes Back of the Terrifier films, just because of where this film leaves off. I know we're kind of jumping all over, but I felt like the third act of this movie got so dark, and like it was really hard to watch at points, even for me, where I'm just like, I love these characters, I love Sienna, but I was like, there's a moment where I thought they might actually kill her. Like, I was really thinking she could die and they could leave us on a cliffhanger or something. And then obviously we have the Jonathan reveal, which I'll put this up front. Do you guys think Jonathan's actually dead?
Yes.
Yeah.
You guys think so?
I don't. I mean, look, they leave just enough question mark in there where, like, if we get to Terrifier 4 and it turns out it was just them fucking with Sienna, like, I'm not going to be upset. But this just doesn't feel like the franchise that would do that. This feels like if Damien wants us to have that shock of, oh my God, they put the glasses on the skull, that wasn't Gabby. That's like, that feels like you would cheapen it in the fourth film, and it doesn't feel like he would do that.
I think for me, it was just like, it felt like Jonathan was so sidelined and there were so many like loose, but that's probably like intentional to make it feel like this big slap in the face at the end of the movie, which I respect, but he's probably dead. I won't be surprised if he's not, but I don't know. I mean, it just felt like there's definitely more they want to do with his character. If he is dead, he's going to be involved still in some way, or we're going to learn something else about him. There's more to his character, but we'll have to wait and see, I guess.
Yeah, I was kind of hoping that was one of my few disappointments with the movie, with Jonathan being such a victim character in a second film. I was kind of hoping, especially with him being 5 years older, that he'd get a chance to kind of rise up a bit more and not necessarily need his sister to protect him as harshly. And I was a little bummed that they didn't go that. They kind of went the opposite direction of that.
I agree. I thought that was the one aspect when Luke and I were talking about it off air, was just like, I felt like that was a bit underutilized. Like it really felt like he could have had a moment, even if he was to have gotten captured by Art and Victoria. But I feel like he deserved his moment to face off against him, because he got just as battered in that last film as Sienna did. Like he also went through it. So it's like he kind of deserved to have his moment against Art. And if he is dead, it's going to kind of feel like, damn, like it just feels like there's something missing there. But the only reason that I have go ahead.
There's also the possibility, which I actually just thought of right now. So, I mean, we're jumping ahead a little bit. We'll talk about the end of the film, but where Sienna's obviously going to have to go in the next film, maybe she'll have a shot to bring her brother back.
That is one place where my head went as well, because I definitely think that that's where we're going to end up in the third act of the fourth film. But like, I just think that they lied to her about, you know, it being her niece. And then they're like, oh no, it's Jonathan. But it's like, the only thing that's not clear to me, I'm 99% sure that the body hanging up on the wall is the dude from the shower, because it's all sliced right up there. He's sliced all the way up. That's what. So that's where I'm debating, because it's like, is the uncle's head on top of the Christmas tree?
Yeah.
Yes.
I couldn't tell. All right, so I just don't know, because I'm like, if that's his body, what if that's just the head of like the
he cut
Mia
the
or the
arms
other
off
guy?
of the guy in the shower though as well. Like he completely mutilated that.
Did
guy.
he? Okay.
The one on the wall still had his limbs.
Oh, okay. I didn't consider that. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, then there you go.
Yeah.
I was wrong. So
Theory
yeah,
shot down.
Jonathan's dead. That's what it is. I don't know. There's just something that just doesn't feel, for as tight and as well done as like 2 being a longer film, but like as tight as that movie is with just kind of leaving things out, but also giving you like kind of a resolution at times with certain points. I feel like it just feels like something's off
There's
about
definitely more
Jonathan.
that's gonna
It just
happen
feels
with
like
this
that's so
character.
unceremonious for a character that they truly have like some passion for. Like Damien Leone wouldn't have put him back in here if he didn't not have anything to do with him. So I don't know. It's a big question mark, and it is definitely the only piece of this film that I feel is a little shaky for me. But
I gotcha. I got some mixed response with that last night too. I had some fans of the channel meet me at the theater, so that was a cool experience too. And that was the biggest thing that everybody was kind of mixed on, was whether or not they liked that being a character that is killed off, period, and also the fact that it was off screen. That was something that a lot of people were kind of bummed about. They were like, "This isn't the franchise you do it off screen." My kind of take on that was, if in fact he is dead, I think they wanted that to be a surprise reveal, where if you saw even just Art and Vicky walk into his dormitory, you'd be like, "He's fucked." You know, you wouldn't even give him a second thought. But yeah, a lot of people seem to be mixed on that one element in the third act more than anything else, from what I've seen.
Absolutely. And I mean, the third act, it goes absolutely insane, because yeah, we can talk about it, where Gabby basically falls down a portal to hell, and like, yeah, falling into the ninth circle. Like, I also I think that it's awesome that, even though I agree, I'm not the biggest fan of All Hallows Eve, we just revisited it on the channel. I think it's got some good ideas. I love that Damien's not like leaving everything off the table. He's finding pieces that work and finding a way to reinvigorate them. And I really love that. I thought, again, very Empire Strikes Back, very much just like we're taking our hero character, putting them at their absolute lowest moment after this movie. And it's beautiful. I think it works so well.
I found it really funny because I remember leading up to the release, and while the movie was even in like early production, where Leone was answering questions about like the supernatural side of Terrifier, because there were some fans who weren't happy that there was such an emphasis on the supernatural in Terrifier 2, and he was like, it's still here, but it's like less of a focus in the third one, and it's less crazy. I don't know if that just changed in the writing process, or if it's something where I'm not sure, but it's certainly not less subtle in terms of the supernatural in this, when we're literally opening up portals to hell that people are falling through in the third act, and wounds are healing on Sienna's hands as she has, crown of thorns. There's so much religious imagery going on in that third act. I can't wait to analyze eventually. But yeah, there's a ton of supernatural stuff in this movie, which I was glad about, because I really like that about the second movie.
So was I. I was actually a little worried. That was my one hesitation walking into this, because they had said for a while that they were trying to go back a bit, and that was my question I asked Damien before I saw the film, was like, we had a big tonal shift and a lot of fantastical stuff brought into the second one. What's new elements we bringing in? And he's like, I'm actually going back. I'm actually trying to like bring some of this down to the first one again. And I was like, okay, cool. But hearing that, I'm like, how far? Yeah. And I think it's a nice mix where it's still there. It's still prevalent. It's not any less wild and wacky and crazy. You just get more of that grindhouse look and the mean-spirited tone to it, and a lot more kills. I think that's what people were basically having trouble articulating about the issue in the second film. I don't think a lot of people hated the fact there was more story. It's just that the story, especially with it being a 2.5-hour film, there are big chunks where you don't get any art carnage. Yeah. This film doesn't have that problem. It's like every 9 minutes there's a whole set piece kill.
And I think like the biggest piece to that, and going back to that interview that I listened to, I really loved his take on that opening, because watching it the first time, I was like, oh, when is this going to come back? Like, what is this like? This must be like of some significance. But no, it's just a cold open. And he kind of compares it to that Tales from the Crypt episode that he loved. The
interview.
Maniac Santa, yeah, then we're good. The Maniac Santa Claus episode, and how he always wanted to do that. Like, he wanted to do a Maniac Santa movie, and he just didn't know if you'd ever get the chance. So when he decided to do this as a Christmas film, he was like, well, I'm going to do a cold open, and I'm just going to have it be raw, nothing but Art the Clown, no supernatural stuff. I'm just going to have him butcher this family. And I really love it. I think it's a great way to start the film. I am going to be honest, and we can kind of segue this portion of it into this kind of whole point that I've been getting a lot of comments on the channel about, is just how this film handles the death of children, because I know that was a huge controversy for so long, and I want to get your guys' opinions on it, because it's like, I think that the beginning, people are like, oh, it's the first 10 minutes are making people pass out, and then it's intense and it's insane, and I'm like, it's rough, but I think that it's handled pretty, especially the one child that we do see get butchered, is handled pretty tastefully. It's like we see the corpse, but we don't see the act. So it's like, yeah.
I love that quote. The butchering of this child was handled tastefully.
There you go. Put it on a t-shirt. I got it. Put it on the Blu-ray.
I'm right there with you, and that was my other big hesitation, because like I'm pretty desensitized, and I'm pretty like I don't get nauseous or triggered by much at all. But the one thing, especially after being a parent, that will, if you go a certain way, depending on the way it's executed, is small children mostly, or like babies having something like that happen. And I think the writing was on the wall ever since that teaser that we are probably going to get that. And a lot of people were speculating about that ever since the teaser dropped. And my big worry was not that it was going to happen. It was how. Are we going to get the bedroom scene with a 4-year-old? Yeah. Because I don't want that. I couldn't sit that would literally lose me. As much as I love these movies and I really champion the people that make it, I would be like, I'm out. Sorry. But the way that they do it here, I was really pleasantly surprised, where they didn't really take their foot off of the carnage gas, but a lot more is suggested. A lot more is in the sound design and like showing a little bit of the aftermath. You're not lingering on a child suffering. Yep. And I think that's the distinction. I still understand completely if some people are like, absolutely way too much. There's no reason. I can't be entertained by that. I get it. But for me, they walked right up to the edge of the line of it being too much and never crossed it.
I think Leone is really good at reading the room in terms of like how far to push things without just like ruining the experience. Yeah. And it's also one of the big reasons that the franchise has such like mass appeal. Like you look at something like whatever those are, like the American Guinea Pig movies or whatever. It's like those aren't super popular franchises for a reason, because you have to be able to understand where the line is, and Leone knows where it is, and he's got like one toe over that line, but he's not going so far that it just ruins the experience. And it was one of those things where like I was pretty sure that a kid was gonna die. I didn't think we were gonna see it. So it pretty much played out how I expected it to. I did not expect that there would be as many children dying in the movie as there were.
That was going to be my next point. Yes,
but I expected it to happen, but that it would happen off screen.
Yeah, and I think both times it happens, again, it's done tastefully, it's done correctly. It's not we're watching a kid being beheaded. It's the explosion. It's done very well. I swear I've seen worse things in like a John Carpenter movie. If you've ever seen Assault on Precinct 13, you see a little girl get shot right there. Like that is worse.
Evil. Yes. Speak No Evil to me is like the definition of that is exactly what I cannot watch and I cannot handle. You'll piss me off. My night will be ruined. It didn't speak no evil.
That's a rough one.
Yeah, Evan, just off topic, I did end up watching the original, and yeah, it's a gut punch. The new one is much more fun. But
I think the original is a better movie, but it's hard.
Yes, I agree. It's a better movie, but yeah, no, I get you guys. That one did a lot. There was a lot to watch. That Coffee Table. Those are movies. They're just tough to watch. But yeah, I feel like the explosion was also just one where it's like, okay, they did that well, because it's like we didn't focus on the gore. Even the gore that we saw, it's like, that could have been the adults. You know what I mean? Like, there's no way to decipher if that's children gore or not. And I appreciated that. And I think that's definitely, like you said, Cody, it will be the point that's make it or break it for some people, and I get that. But I think as somebody who went in really confident that they knew what they were going to do, especially because if you watch All Hallows Eve, it's a lot of the same execution.
Yeah.
Because at the end of that film, there's 2 dead kids. You see their severed heads. That's right about on par. So it's like, I think that's what we should have expected, and I think it was well done. And overall, I thought that the opening again was effective. I loved it. I loved watching Art wash the dish after eating the cookies. It's amazing. It's amazing. Again, I think the humor in this too. It definitely
I really want to talk about the humor.
Has a great way of just going from extreme gross and oh my god, what am I watching, to just laughing out loud. The scene where he fucking sees Santa Claus.
Dude,
Yeah, my theater got a big laugh.
The clown fucking around thing in this franchise so far.
Yeah.
Comedic gold.
Oh my god,
Comedic
I was in
gold.
stitches.
I laughed my ass off alone in my bedroom, and I had just as much fun laughing about it with an entire theater.
Here's how funny it is. I don't know if you guys are familiar with my buddy Brian Lomax.
Yes.
If I said he's not a fan of Terrifier, I am harshly underselling it. He basically detests everything that these movies are about. And he went to go see the third one today because we're talking about it in 31 on 31. And he said he laughed at that scene.
Okay.
And if you get Brian Lomax to laugh, that shit's fucking funny.
Hell
Yeah.
yeah, dude.
There's just the shit when he was like pointing at the Santa mask.
Yes.
And he's like, when he knocked,
Pushes the
three
girl.
things, it was that. It was when he sprints back to the window, like he passes the window and then
Yeah.
comes back and, he's like, and then he just throws that woman over and is like sprint. It's
I
so
thought
good. It's so good.
him and Daniel Roebuck, they had beautiful chemistry. I even loved, oh my
How
god, I'm
was it?
forgetting his name.
Clint Howard.
Clint
Yeah,
Howard.
yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say Ron Howard's brother. He was great in it too. I loved when the girls are all over Santa Claus and he's just like, I got a chimney.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, my wife's dead. Like, it's so good. Like, Damien is really great at writing comedy. And they say that horror and comedy go hand in hand. You have to kind of have the same timing for both of them, and you can just see that perfectly in
Well,
this.
and
'Cause-
David is just getting better every single time. Like,
100%.
I was wondering, because one of my favorite things about Terrifier 2 is just watching him fuck around. I was like, just the charisma is amazing. But I was also like, I don't know if he can like amp the charisma up further from where it was in 2. And then you watch 3 and you're like, the amount of expression that can come out of this man's face within like a 3-second window. Well, someone is talking to him and he will morph his face like multiple times through what they're saying to react to it. It is unbelievably impressive to watch the physicality in his performance and how much he is able to communicate without ever making a sound. Like, one of them is when the Santa Claus is like, I have grandkids, and there's this look on Art's face there where he's just like, oh yes, and you're like, oh, it's so effective. I mean, David is just incredible. He's just getting better every single time, and I'm like, where the heck? Like, is that getting amplified again? Like,
He's a talented
he's
guy, dude. I
insanely
mean, straight
talented.
up. I agree with you 100%. I think one thing I've been seeing, not to go down this road too far, but a lot of people have said today that they want to see him play the next Joker in the DC
He had
universe.
expressed interest in that.
Yeah, I know he's a big
Yeah.
Joker fan. Cody, I know you have some opinions on DC and everything. How would you feel about that?
I don't know. See, the issue is, like, I think that David is wildly talented, but I have not seen him do a speaking role. All of
was
his
what I was gonna
roles are
say.
doing
Yeah.
kind of the Art the Clown thing in different variations. And so I kind of would want to see a different role from him before I'd be comfortable giving him the most beloved comic book villain of all time. I mean, he hasn't done anything to make me think he couldn't handle giving a very charismatic Joker, but yeah, I just need to see that side, because it's a world of difference doing physical expression and facial expression versus reading lines and stuff like that. It's totally different acting. So I'd be curious, but yeah, I'd want to see him do something else before then. Because even in Stream, like we just got Stream and his
Yeah.
character, I didn't even know he was in the movie, and I just saw the character for 5 seconds. I was like, that's fucking Art the Clown. It's the
Yeah.
same thing. Yeah.
And that was one thing I was like, man, I wanted him to talk in that one, because the mean one of all the movies, I thought, okay, you have the Grinch, it's like he talks. It's like that's something he should do. It's like no speaking until the very end. Spoilers, but yeah, it's gonna be interesting. He needs to have some kind of a role here soon where he can actually verbalize, and we can get that. I agree with you. I hopefully he talks in Screamboat. That would be cool. Mickey Mouse just talking shit, slashing people up. Let's go with it. Which I gotta say, I think that looks it looks like it's gonna be a good bit of fun. It looks like you guys ever seen The Mighty Boosh?
No.
Okay, well, if you see any characters in that, it's like a Adult Swim, but like from the UK kind of show. There's some characters in there, like the Crack Fox or whatever. Yeah, it looks like he's gonna be like that. I'm excited. Yeah, but going back to Terrifier here, one piece that I wanted to ask you guys that I was also a little bit on the fence about is so when the city workers walk into the house, it's Dennis and Maurice Jackson. That was also great out of that scene when he gets that but when they walk in there, Jackson tells a story about all these kids being buried in a basement. Do we actually think that he's fucking with him, or do you think that has anything to do with potentially being tied to Art's origins of any kind? Was he a serial killer of children before he was shot himself in Terrifier 1?
I'm not sure, because I need to watch Terrifier 1 again. It's been a while, but I remember that movie, him feeling supernatural throughout that movie, even before this entity resurrects him for the second film. And
the only piece to that I would say kind of gives me a little bit of pushback is just at the beginning of Terrifier, because we just watched it, he's putting on the makeup. We never see him put on the makeup again. Like, he's always wearing it afterwards. So I'm wondering if he's like... that's the big hang up with that, is I don't know if he's completely human or not in that first film.
David actually did touch on that. He said that in the first movie, Art is human and he has powers that he doesn't know about yet.
Yeah, and see, that's my confusion with it, because we'll talk about it, I'm sure, at some point. I kind of get lore-wise what they're going for and what this entity is doing and controlling Art and using him, and that all makes sense from Terrifier 2 onward, but I don't know whether to accept Terrifier as pre-supernatural Art or he's already somewhat supernatural or what, because that would be cool as a detail of like the original human Art the Clown was, like Freddy Krueger.
That's how I see it. I see it as like in the first one, he is still like human Art. And then it's not until like the ending of that and the start of 2 where he has now become something more.
Yeah, I think that's definitely where my head's at with it. I mean, again, until we have concrete confirmation, it's still going to be kind of up in the air and just theorizing. But again, I got to ask then, do we ever want them to fully explain that? Or are you guys good with kind of just leaving it where it is and we just get little pieces as we go along?
I think with the amount of lore that they have put into here, I actually would like to know more about solid explanations. I think Evan used the word earlier, subtle. This is not a subtle franchise, so this is not one where they're going to leave a lot of ambiguity and like you decide for yourself. Like, I think Damien knows definitively the answers to all of these questions, and it's just a matter of when he's going to reveal them, and I'm all for it.
Yeah, I have a similar feeling to that, where it was like, maybe if you had asked me at the start of 2, where like the way that movie presented its story was so vague and weird, and I enjoy that kind of thing. So if you had asked me in Terrifier 2 if I wanted to know more, I might have honestly said no, just leave it. But after seeing 3 and being so intrigued by the expansions they made to the lore, now I'm like, okay, I want to know everything now. Yeah. Like, I feel like the amount of questions that they've raised kind of demand a full answer.
Yeah, no, I agree. I go back and forth with it a little bit. I do want it, but at the same time, I'm afraid, because sometimes when you have these icons like this, you can take away the mystique. Like if it's just a little bit too much, it can really devalue it. But I'm optimistic that, you know, we've been able to handle it well this far, that they'll get it across the finish line and bring it home just right. But it does give me a little bit of pause, because it's like, well, once the cat's out of the bag, genie's out of the bottle, there's no going back. So it's like, for now, we can all just kind of theorize and have fun with it. And I just don't know if Art's really a character personally that I even need that anymore. Like, I think I think the hints, the subtle, the theorizing, it's nice, and we can get more lore, but just never fully explain everything. Because I think that there's a little bit of horror in that, with the fact of just, we don't fully understand it. Like, I think the vessel thing, I like that. I enjoy that. I like that idea, that, especially because they bring it up as, I think the line is, the more recent the dead person, the more powerful the vessel becomes. So in my eyes, it's like, well, Art died and then immediately was taken over. Vicky was mutilated, and then he was only able to take her over, I believe, the end of Terrifier into Terrifier 2. So it's like she had time, and then obviously 5 years jump, so she's just more of a plaything, which I thought, as far as additions go, what I thought might have been the most controversial, but it seems like everybody's really on board. How'd you guys feel about Art speaking through her?
I don't take it that way. I actually took it the opposite way. I took it as Art as the pawn.
Yep.
Ooh,
I took it as Art as the Jason and Freddy versus Jason, where this entity, this demonic entity in Terrifier 2 took the form of this little girl as just kind of a watcher, just kind of there to kind of be there for his carnage. And then we get more context to it in this third film. And I think after he got his ass kicked by Sienna, so I wouldn't say easily, but she, whooped his ass in the second film. And I think she transferred from little girl body to more physically threatening body, to go from watcher to basically backup.
Well,
and
Jonathan's letter basically spells that out, because he talks about how a demon needs sort of this host who is already inclined to be violent and evil. So he kind of saw Art the Clown, this very depraved serial killer, and was like, this is how I can kind of weave my way in. So no, I don't see it as the Art speaking through the other body. I see this as an entity that is speaking, that is possessing people, and then is kind of using Art the Clown to achieve whatever it's trying to achieve.
Yeah, and what it's trying to achieve, from what I gathered, is they're trying to possess Sienna. Sienna is the counterpart that came up, that is the only thing that can oppose them definitively. And if you get inside Sienna, you're done.
It's game over.
It's game over. We've won. There's no stopping us now. And so that's how I've kind of read the path of the last couple of movies, is the entity that has taken over the little girl and Vicky is in charge. Art is just the chaos, go murder everybody, go take everything from this girl, everything that she loves, everything that she knows, so that I can get inside of her.
I love that. I love to see, because I saw it a little differently, and I was paying attention very much to how David's performance, when there would be certain things that Sienna does. I think the biggest one is it's when Gabby, not Gabby, Gabby's mom, I don't remember her name, but she says to Sienna to kill them both, fucking torture them, whatever. And she, Art kind of looks at her in a very disapproving manner, and then all of a sudden Vicky turns her attention to her. If you watch in that scene, it's almost like wherever Art looks, or whenever he pays attention to something physically, suddenly Vicky's moving towards it, suddenly she's taking more priority over it. And that's where I started to get well, maybe he's controlling her. But I love that you guys have the opposite, because again, that's the beauty of this, man, is we don't know. So it's people see it different ways, and it's it just adds to this layered character of just this simple clown that doesn't speak. And I adore it. I think it's so much fun. But yeah, I mean, I loved it. I thought that was definitely my favorite piece to the lore, I think, that we got through this movie, was just that expansion and seeing what more of that does, just a little bit of explanation.
Yeah, and I liked it even more so because it gave Vicky context, because I've never quite understood that character's purpose. In the first film, aside from shock value for the bookend,
Yeah.
I'm like, okay. And then you get to the second film and she births his head. And I'm like, what the fuck does that mean?
Yeah.
And then you get into 3 and now like it actually makes some kind of sick, twisted sense. And I actually think Vicky in the third act primarily has moments where she kind of steals the show from Art a little bit. Like, where she, I'm going to open you up the way I did this bitch. I'm like, oh, like I'm almost more scared of her. And even the look, like I know it's going to be touchy for some, another piece of taboo in this film, but like the crown of thorns with her own version of Art, like, yeah, it was just gnarly.
When Sienna comes around the corner and I saw her in her own Art the Clown like costume, I was like, that's so fucking cool. I love it. I was head over heels for it. But I agree, man. I think that like she absolutely takes center stage in that third act. And like Luke even said when he first finished watching it, we were talking about it, and he's like, I don't know how I feel about it. He's like, on one hand, I really like it, but he's like, it feels like Art the Clown kind of got sidelined in the third act. And I was just like, yeah, but I think like when I told him my thoughts and how it's like, I think they're kind of one and the same, and they're kind of, being controlled by each other, or one's controlling the other. That's when we kind of got on the same page. After last night, he was like, no, it's, even if it is just Vicky, he's like, I love it. He's like, I think that she's so fucking powerful and cool. I think she adds a lot to why I think that third act is so dark, because we're used to Art kind of having his moments of like slicing you up, doing a bunch of fucked up shit, but then he has that little goofy smile, or he makes a little hand gesture and stuff. Vicky doesn't do that. Vicky's just gonna cut you up and fuck you up, and that's gonna be the end of it.
That third act was the first time in this franchise that I would say I've been somewhat like afraid of something that was happening in a Terrifier movie, because like usually it's like that's gross or that's really fun, but like this was the first time where I was like uncomfortable.
Well, it was like it was the progression of all of it. So Sienna wakes up from her little fever dream of the I'm guessing it was Virgin Mary's, from what I gathered from it, forcing a demon to forge the real armor that I presume she'll probably wear in the next film. She wakes up from that fever dream and it's already over. Like there's no buildup. You're done. We've got your aunt downstairs bound. Your uncle's in pieces on the wall. Art knocks her out. Now you're just forced to sit and watch it all. So you're forced to, okay, there's my uncle in pieces and his head on the tree. There's my aunt, can't do anything. She's probably done for. This skull, I'm being told, is my niece. Like all in seconds, it's like everything is over. There's nothing to stop. There's nothing to look forward to. It's done.
It's just this desolation of everything she cares about.
Yes, and then like building all the way where she's forced to watch all of this stuff while Art is smacking her in the head and hitting her with the hammer
every time he walks by.
Yeah, pop.
That was so good. I gotta laugh every time too.
Yeah, and then you get the really cool visual where Vicky grabs her, and you get like the Exorcist wind and the white eyes, and just the even the crown of thorns being pushed onto her. Like it's just so mean, and then ripping the Band-Aid off at the very end, it's like, oh yeah, that's not Gabby, and they put the little glasses on, and it's just like that. Actually shocked me when I first saw it. I was like, oh fuck, it's him. Oh, it's like mean.
That's why it's like I live in some denial there, where I'm just like, no, it can't be Jonathan. Like they got to be fucking with him, but yeah, it could be. And if so, it's a great reveal. Like I just, it's even the things that I'm conflicted about with this film, I still love. I still think they did a good job with it. And I think they aced it. I know we're kind of coming up on the time here, but I have just 2 more pieces I wanted to mention. And then is there anything else that you guys wanted to touch on together? Anybody have any pieces they wanted to bring up?
The only thing that I had in my negatives that I haven't really discussed yet. Did you guys feel like the podcast character was maybe turned up a little bit too much?
It's too much of a caricature. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was the only.
I felt that on the second viewing.
Yeah, I felt like the acting in general had a big improvement in this movie. And I think that has to do with Damien offloading a lot of the special effects and just being able to work with actors. Like I saw a sizable difference. Yeah. And she was the only performance or character where it felt off, where I'm like, yeah, you feel like you're turning it up 12 and it needs to be like around 8.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I think she bugged me a little bit when she first was like interacting with Jonathan, especially. But once she gets taken down by Sienna, I thought that was really satisfying.
Yes.
But like, I think she's only there for another scene, and yes, she's supposed to be annoying. So I kind of put it in that spectrum, but like, yeah, I think I agree with you that she was definitely the weaker one. I actually thought her boyfriend was pretty cool. Like, I thought that he was a good friend to Jonathan, especially
he was
because
actually
like he
human.
was embarrassed, right? Like he's embarrassed by
Do you
her.
think that I was out of line there? Yeah, a little bit. Like,
I love how blunt he was about that. He's just like, yeah, I do actually.
yeah, even
You don't just
Jonathan
get
did
over
that.
that.
He ran downstairs. Sienna, what did you do? I'd be like, shut the fuck up.
Right?
You were there.
Like I was agreeing too. I'm like, I think she was stepping over a line there, bud. Like, I don't know. But I get it. He's just trying to move on. You know, he's trying to be the one stepping forward. But Evan, was there anything you wanted to touch on?
No, nothing that comes to mind immediately.
Okay, because the last piece I'll bring up, and then we'll talk, just outro final things here, is so how did you guys feel about Sienna's dad? That introduction, where do you think that's going? Because I love the casting. I thought it was a very heartwarming scene. I just don't know what his connection is to all of this, and I'm so curious.
The way that I'm reading it thus far is whatever power at be make sure that there's a protector that rises up against this impending demon. If it's going to be God or whoever it is, whatever the overall power at be is using him as kind of a conduit where, he hands her that picture, he gets the flashes of a lot of the events of the second film and everything. And then we got the context in Terrifier 2 that he starts to lose his mind and he obsesses and he starts to get abusive. And then he essentially drives off into a power transformer. And if I'm to assume, I think that he gets this vision, like, this is going to happen. This demon's going to come. Your daughter is chosen as the protector and you have to get her ready. So I think the abuse or whatever context we're given, I think it's going to end up being contextualized where he's trying to get his daughter to be where she needs to be to become Sienna.
Yeah.
I have
Evan,
nothing to add to that. That's exactly how I also interpreted that.
Hell yeah. No, I think that's a great interpretation, honestly. I like that a lot. Because I know many people, and I included, thought, is he Art the Clown? Does he turn into it? But then when they announced that casting, I was just like, well, I mean, like, it looks nothing like David Howard Thornton. And I get if, like, there was some kind of a demonic shift with him. But I kind of like this a lot more. I think that it makes more sense. It adds a little extra layer of tragedy to it. And I don't know. I forgot if Terrifier 2, and I didn't pick up on this. Did they mention that he was abusive in Terrifier 2?
They did.
Yeah.
Okay.
A couple of different times. Like, I'm liking it to more of a darker version of the Sarah Connor, John Connor relationship.
Okay.
Where
Gotcha.
it's abuse, but from the parental side of it, it's like, I'm getting you fucking ready. Like, I'm pushing you, I'm hardening you for what is about to come. You can't be a little bitch and go against Art the Clown. So yeah, they mentioned it a couple different times from her friends and everything. Yeah. Every time she freaks out, they're like, his dad was a little psycho and he was getting a little abusive towards Sienna towards the end, especially. And so that's just where I see things going. But I agree with you. I prefer where they're continuing to head, because I thought the same thing. I'm like, is he Art the Clown, or does he have special powers and his drawings come to life? Or that there's probably a version of that would be fun, but I think this is better.
Yeah.
There is another interesting idea, like I think Leone might have mentioned this in the director's commentary, actually, that the reason that her father had become abusive was because through acting as a conduit for that divine entity, he was also kind of peripherally interacting with the darker side of energy that's out there, and so that kind of manifested in him as a tumor and was like affecting his behavior towards Sienna, because she's the one who is a threat to this dark entity. So through it also kind of touching him, he got aggression towards her, because they did specify that the abuse was more so towards Sienna than with Jonathan or Barbara. So I think that's an interesting idea as well. The lore is so fascinating in this. It's really the thing that is like keeping me super locked into this franchise, is just how cool this like divinity going on behind the scenes is. And when you get that shot towards the end of this, of Sienna fallen to her knees, looking out that window that Art has just disappeared from, and she like lifts the crown from her head, and her hands are sitting out like this, and they heal in the light. It's just there's such like divine potency in that makes me so excited to see what is surely going to be like a fantastical fourth movie that just goes so crazy with the religious imagery, because it's just getting stronger every time.
I do want to say that got an audible ooh from like a couple of the people around me when her hands healed. They were just like,
Such a great shot,
I was like, oh, that's so cool,
because
like,
that blade
it
can't hurt her. It's a
chills.
sign to her.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I mean, the fact she lost the damn thing, like it's down there with Gabby. I feel like Gabby's going to be using it to keep herself safe, and that's how we're going to find her, is like she's been using that this whole time. But yeah, guys, that's Terrifier 3, man. The last little piece on this we can touch briefly is just, what do you guys want to see next? Where do you want to see Terrifier 4 go? Like, I mean, I know we're basking in this in what 3 is and just trying to keep it enjoyment right now, but like, what do you hope to see? Where do you want this to go?
I don't know. I feel like I've learned to not speculate with this franchise,
Because
like,
you never know.
exactly. I'm just like, wherever you want to go, Damien, I'm there.
You keep taking words out of my mouth, man. That's exactly where I'm at. It's like, I want to see it go wherever Leone has it planned to go. Because like, if you had asked me where I thought things were heading after the first movie, I wouldn't have told you it was what happened in Terrifier 2. And if you asked me where I thought things were heading after the second movie, I wouldn't have told you it's what happened in Terrifier 3. So at this point, I'm just like, hands off the wheel, Damien, do your thing.
Yeah, I think there is probably going to be some form of like Sienna on the run on this one, because they were already, you know, not rumors, but there was always that narrative that like she killed everybody from the second film, and then, you know, her brother's testimony kind of exonerated that, and now you have a whole house full of bodies where she was staying, and her brother and everybody else. And so I feel like the fourth film is probably going to be her trying to find a way to get to hell, get the armor, whatever she needs to do, whilst also having a police character or a detective or somebody after her. It'd be cool if you had like a detective that had been like investigating the Art the Clown murders, that is now investigating her, and there's a confliction there where as he starts to learn more, he's like, wait a minute, are these connected? And I always thought there was more to it. And I'm sure they have an even better idea than that, but if I was just spitballing, that's kind of where I would start to write down ideas. If they said, Cody, you're writing 4, and I'd be like, oh fuck, okay.
There you go. I mean, I hate to sound like a broken record, and honestly, I hate that you guys had the same feelings, but I was gonna say, as far as speculation goes, at this point, I didn't know. Coming out of 2, who the fuck would have said a Christmas movie? Nobody. But like, it works. It's been proven to work, so he can do whatever he wants. Like, I mean, it's impressive. And strangely enough, I know Luke and I kind of differ here, because he loves the Art the Clown character. He wants to see him continue, even if they end Sienna's story. But I would be fine if they end it at 4 and they really give us a definitive end to a slasher icon. And then maybe, 10 years down the road, if you find a way, if Damien finds a way to do it, you can. But I'm good. Like, keep the quality going, keep the story moving, and like, let's just give us a good, solid ending.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm 100% with you. And aside from that, I also just want to see what Damien can do outside of Terrifier.
Yes.
Because I know there's a lot of people out there, like the haters. There's a lot of people out there that are like, he can only do this. He only ever does this. That's all he can ever do. And I'm like, well, until he only does this for the rest of his career, you can't say that. So I want to see him stick the landing with Terrifier. Yeah. And then I want to see what else the guy's got.
I want him to tie up the story first, because I don't want it to be like waiting like 5 years between entries for these. Because there's so many questions that are left at the end of each of these. So like, I would be perfectly happy if 4 is the ending, and I don't think that's unlikely. I think it's possible he goes out to a 5th one, although I don't really think it needs to go that far. But I definitely want to get to the point where it's like Art and Sienna's story gets wrapped up, we get this definitive ending, and then, of course, Terrifier movie's going to keep getting made after that. Even if Leone's not involved with it, it's going to, although he does own the IP.
Yes.
So
yeah, I don't know if that would happen. So I think
Falcone do still own the IP. So if he wants it to be done, then it can just be done. Which I love. I would like that.
You just reminded me. Loved his cameo at the end too.
That was great.
It's like only a select few people.
Blood and guts and stuff.
Yeah, I feel like only a few people are gonna notice that. Like, unless you're like a night one fan, like you're gonna notice that. But like when general audiences go, they're just gonna be like, oh, just a guy. But like seeing him on there, I was like, oh,
That was
fuck
great,
yeah,
and
Phil
the
Falcone,
Savini
let's
cameo
go.
was very good. Too. I
Yes,
enjoyed that.
yeah, that was fun too. That was cute.
And you know, that's something that I actually think that Damien does really well, is putting like cameos or having horror alumni show up without feeling like we just shoehorned a scene in to show,
Yeah.
you know, Felissa Rose or somebody. There's a lot of movies out there where I get that feeling whenever I see cameos and horror alumni casting. It's just like,
Yep.
here's an extra 20 minutes of the movie just to get these people in here. And whether it's Daniel Roebuck's character or Clint Howard's little one-liners, it's like, this feels like it's a part of the movie and they just happen to be casted. And so I like that.
Yeah.
I agree. Yeah, I felt like Stream for the most part with their cast too. It's the same production company. They also did really well. There were a handful, like I would say, spoilers. Felissa Rose is one of them. Shows up for 5 seconds, dies. But like I think that like they also used their legacy cast, and like I think that that's so important because you're right. So many movies, it's like, well, we got so and so in this movie. Look at that. We're gonna put it on all over the posters. They're in it for a minute, 2 minutes. It's like, why do you do that? Like,
Yeah.
they had a lot, so it's like, yeah, it makes sense that there's going to be, you know, some that are just there for a second. But I think the whole team at Fuzz on the Lens, they have a bit more of a, I guess, kinship and understanding that just horror fans want these people, but we want them in quality. We don't want them to just be a glorified cameo.
Yeah.
So
They're horror fans. And there's a
100%.
difference between horror fans and a studio that thinks they understand the horror community, and they're like, they just want to see Robert Englund, and then you get it, and we're like, no, that's not what we said. And so that I just they give the feeling like, and I told Michael Levy this, like, I feel like when we go to these premieres, like, you guys are just horror fans sitting there with us watching a gore fest, and it just happens to be your movie. But they're very cool people. So.
I agree. Well, gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me to talk some spoilers. This was an absolute blast. I'll pass it around here as usual. Cody, do you have anything you want to plug while you're on the channel here? I mean, everybody who is subscribed here is 99% sure subscribed to you, sir.
So I have a Terrifier 3 spoiler review that actually dropped just moments ago. I also plan on doing a Terrifier ranking of the 3 films. Still undecided if I want to include All Hallows Eve or not. Probably not. But you have that. I also have a review for It's Me, Billy, Chapter 2 that I'll be dropping tomorrow. And then I'm planning on doing a very brief Return of the Living Dead review series next week, because I've never been a massive fan of those movies. And then I saw Return of the Living Dead with the cast in Arizona last month, and seeing it's the same as Terrifier, seeing it in a little theater room with rowdy fans and the cast, like, just brought this different energy, and I was like, I think I love this movie now. What the fuck was wrong with me? So I want to watch 2 for the first time, and I've always liked 3, so that's coming down the pipe very soon.
Very cool. Evan, what do you have on the horizon there, sir? I know you just dropped Lake Mungo, which was a big one for you. People have been waiting for that.
That was one I was putting out. I realized I had to do it when, if you would look up Rockland Graves on YouTube, the first thing that would come up was Rockland Graves Lake Mungo. So I was like, I need to jump on this. So I just got that out. I have The Witch dropping next week, which is the first part of, I'm going through all 3 of Eggers' films leading up to Nosferatu, which obviously I'm very excited for because he's like my favorite person working in film right now. Absolutely cannot wait. It was so sick to see the Nosferatu trailer before Terrifier 3. That was just like, I feel like a kid in a candy shop right now. But I've got that, and then currently in the works, I have the original Wolfman, starting that up for Lee Winnell's movie in January, which I can't wait for. And the 1958 Dracula, the Christopher Lee one, I guess Horror of Dracula is what it's called in the US, which may be my favorite Dracula movie, which is not the most common answer, I know. And Bram Stoker's Dracula is great, but I think that Horror of Dracula might
Dracula
be my
2000. I'm just kidding.
Okay, yeah. No, so I'm very, very excited for all of those videos. So I've got those all coming up.
Sounds good, man. I'm excited. So yeah, you guys know we got all kinds of junk coming out on the channel. At this point, when this goes up, I think you should be getting a Rippy review on Monday. So we'll be looking forward to that. Zombified, Kangaroo, Michael Bean, Can't go wrong with that. So I'm excited
This
to get that out.
exists. Whoa.
Yes, it does. I can tell you a little bit about it after this. But yeah, guys, that's gonna wrap it up here. So thank you guys again, and until next time, I'm Dylan Newell. And remember, stay scared.
Hey, Lauren, how's it going? It's good to meet you. Huge fan of your film, obviously, and also just you as a person. So thank you for sitting down with me and talking a little bit of horror stuff with me.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so happy to be here.
Awesome, awesome. So I'll start things off with probably the most hardcore and controversial question that you've ever been asked in an interview. So are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. What's your favorite Halloween candy?
Oh my God, that's a great question. It's a tie between Reese's and Kit Kats.
Hell yeah. Awesome. Yeah, I told my son, I asked him any interview that I do this October, I'm going to ask what's their favorite Halloween candy, because he was like, you got to ask people like Halloween questions. I'm like, all right, cool. I'll do so.
Right. He's a smart young man, and Halloween is important. And even when I buy Halloween bags of Halloween candy, I buy a bag for myself. So
There you go. Hell yeah. Awesome. I'm glad to hear it. Yeah, we definitely do the same. We usually wait till right after the Halloween because it's extra cheap. So, but yeah, I mean, Terrifier 3, this is monumental. I mean, as a huge fan of horror films in the horror space, like I have been covering this film with friends of mine online for now probably 2 years, it looks like. And it's just been the anticipation and everything. And I gotta say, like, walking into Terrifier 2, it's like you're excited to see Art the Clown, you're excited to see these crazy kills. What I did not expect was to be walking out and falling in love with characters like Jonathan and Sienna, and just actually like seeing, wow, these are like real people. They're not just cannon fodder and things like that to be thrown at the screen. So getting a chance to see this film, it was amazing to see, again, that attention to detail get brought over. And I just have to think, and I only have a short time, so when it comes to you as an actress, what is like the most valuable piece to a script or a story or a pitch when you're trying to select a project? What do you look for, and what is something that you'd maybe encourage other creatives or people who want to get into space that they should keep an eye out for?
That's a wonderful question. I am at a stage in my life where I've been getting a lot of offers very similar to Terrifier. So a lot of characters like Sienna, and which I love Sienna, but I want to do things that are different. So, and that's something I've been looking for projects who are just different. I want to feel challenged. I want to feel creatively inspired. And if I do the same thing over and over, I think I'll fall into a rut and I'll hate myself as a creative and I'll probably want to quit. So I am just trying to find things that are different and hopefully different from me as a person. And I think Sienna is different from who I am, but there are definitely similarities there. So I think with each project, I'm trying to find avenues to characters that are bit more out of my reach. And I do think that every person in the world is in each of us, but I think our mask that we show to people is, based off of how we were born, how we were built, our environment, but I think we're capable of being anyone and everyone. So I want to see how I can find that journey into other people's shoes. So that's really what I'm trying to do now in my career.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's a great answer. I mean, I definitely relate to that. I'm an aspiring filmmaker, like as probably most people with YouTube channels are. So it's like, it's encouraging to hear that that's, again, something that everybody seems to, a common goal, because I feel like that's when you get the best stuff, like you get these unique projects. And I guess to follow up from that question, being somebody who has so much, like, I guess, potential, and people are knocking down your door trying to get you in all of these hot projects and everything, is there like a particular project that you've kind of eyed, or maybe something, not getting into specifics obviously of like what you've been offered, but is there like, maybe whether it's like a drama or a Marvel movie or something, is there something that you kind of really been hoping will be offered to you, or you've been trying to track down yourself?
I definitely would like to do more comedy. I've studying comedy for years, and I would love to do something that won't traumatize me or my body, like Terrifier has tended to do. As much as I love it, it's an exhausting franchise to be a part of, and it's just exhausting form of storytelling. And I grew up wanting to be Jackie Chan. Like, I wanted to be a martial arts actor that does 100% of their own stunts. So I'm hoping if I could get like a cool, fun buddy cop movie similar to Rush Hour. And if one doesn't come knocking down my door, I'm just going to write it myself. But I am very lucky with like my next project I'll be doing. There are some comedic aspects to it. I'll be working with an actor I really respect and a director I really respect. But after that, I'm hoping to like do a little bit more comedy.
Awesome, fantastic. And definitely, if you talk about writing it yourself, I have to ask, do you have any ambition to maybe step into the director's chair?
You know, I was asked this question at Sitges Film Festival, and this really lovely young woman who's also a director, she asked me the same question, and I said, well, I do write, and I plan on writing. I would love to direct. I have an understanding of what actors need. However, it would be such a new thing for me. I don't know if I'm ready, but I would like to do it eventually. And she came up to me afterwards and she was like, don't wait, do it now. And it like put this fire under my ass. And I was like, shit, yeah, I think I'll try.
Very good.
If I think I'm not ready, and well, what's the point? Just go. If this is our only life, what's the point of waiting? So I would like to do it. Let's just hope it's soon.
I hope so as well. Yeah, I mean, again, as a fan of yours, just on screen, I'd love to see some of your ideas going behind the camera. And I mean, working with people like Damien Leone, who kind of, built their own, career essentially from the ground up, just shooting little short films. I'm sure there was just a ton to take in and learn and from something like that. And I feel like there's something pure to an environment like that that promotes creativity. So I can only hope that, going forward when we see what you end up directing, that it also follows that path. Now, I know you said comedy. Would you ever consider maybe directing a horror film, or do you have like other aspirations of maybe you'll do something else?
I am currently writing a horror film. Yes, it'll be a Western slasher.
Perfect.
Whether or not I'm going to direct it, I don't know. I will certainly write it, but who knows? It's so early in the process that I think I'll have to see. If I do direct it, great. If not, I'll definitely I'll be happy with writing it.
Perfect. Well, that is pretty much all the time I have. I have to ask then, if it's a slasher Western, have you seen Bone Tomahawk?
I haven't, but I will. And
Okay.
I'll that'll be my homework. And I know of this, but I've heard so many wonderful things. And I plan on diving into Westerns just in general to really have an understanding of it. So yeah, I will watch it.
Fantastic. Yeah, no, I hope you enjoy it. It's a great one. But thank you, Lauren. This has honestly been great. Dream come true. So thank you for taking the time with me. And yeah, hopefully I'll speak to you again in the future.
Oh, I hope so too. Thank you for the wonderful questions. They were different, and I appreciate that. So thank you.
Cool. I do my best. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Do the hard shit, gonna do it live. Cause Splattercast kick it every day they live. Splattercast, gonna slash your ass. 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 Splattercast, gonna slash your ass.